The New York Jets came into some cap space thanks to their CJ Mosley restructure. We're going to talk about what they can do with said cap space now. Hey, what's going on? Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today I'm going to be going through 5 guys the Jets could sign right now with this new cap space. Before we get started today, I wanted to mention where you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. If you haven't already, please make sure to check out the Just Jets podcast. One more episode on Monday, then we're moving to Wednesday. And last but certainly not least, this video is brought to you by BUSR. Make sure to sign up at busr.com/Matt, and you can receive a deposit match bonus and 25 casino chips when you do sign up. They have all different kinds of markets that you could test out. I was betting on some college football yesterday. I cannot believe that Ole Miss did not cover. That's just a conversation for another day, but it's been a ton of fun. So make sure to check it out. Link to that in the description. Okay, so I'm going to go through 5 names that the New York Jets could potentially target. And I know that they don't necessarily have to sign someone, but if they did, the 2 positions that stand out right now as still needs for this New York Jets team is offensive tackle and safety. Those are 2 spots that I don't feel great at. And obviously, offensive tackle as the starters are fine. I like Dwayne Brown. I think that was a good decision to bring him in. He was initially looked at to be a swing tackle, and then Mekhi Becton gets lost for the season, so he is definitely going to play. And George Fant moves back to the right side and is a solid player. But beyond that, they really only have Max Mitchell, and he, to me, is still a very developmental guy. I don't think he's someone who could come in and play right away if, God forbid, there was an injury, especially on the left side. I don't really look at him as a left tackle in the NFL level. I think he's probably more than likely a right tackle, which is fine, but it's still obviously something to keep note of here. But the Jets, I'm going to give you 3 guys that they could potentially look at this position. All 3 are veterans, which I think is what you want at this point. Like, you don't necessarily want a younger guy. You want someone who has that experience. And there's some decent options out. So with the offensive tackles first, I have 3 offensive tackles to look at, 2 safeties. The first is Eric Fisher. Probably remember him from the Kansas City Chiefs. Last year played on the Indianapolis Colts. He was a former number 1 overall pick in 2013. It's just been kind of like steady. Is he... it's hard for a number 1 overall pick that's an offensive lineman to be flashy, but he was kind of just like, steady throughout his entire career. He played both right tackle and left tackle. As a rookie, he played right tackle, so it's been a while since he's played on that side. But, most of his career has been on the left side, where he's been really solid. He started 15 games for the Colts last year. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler. In 2020, most recently in 2020, he put up a really good season. Last year was probably just okay. Like, I don't think he was phenomenal in any stretch of the word. I don't think he was someone who, you necessarily want to start a full year for you. But if in a pinch, if he needs to come in, like, this is someone who can play and has proven that he can play at this level. So Fisher's probably my favorite option. There's 2 other options here. Second guy, I'm a little bit less sold on, but I think it was more his contract that was egregious than his actual play. He was fine, he just wasn't great, and that's Nate Solder. Obviously, he's not the guy that he was in New England. He's a veteran who can play on both sides of the line. Really made his numbers in New England as a left tackle, but played right tackle for the Giants last year. Started 16 games actually for those New York Giants in 2021. He's a really good run blocker, and we know the Jets are going to be looking to run the football, so they're probably going to want someone who can come in and do just that. And again, like, the Jets don't need him to be the guy that he was in New England. And you hope that Nate Solder, if you sign him, that he wouldn't have to play at all. But I don't know about you. I'd feel a lot more comfortable if the Jets had some sort of veteran in here that they could rely on, God forbid, if either of their starting tackles go down with injury. And the last one is Mike Remmers, who I probably am a little bit higher on than Nate Solder, but not as high as Eric Fisher. He is someone who also played both left and right tackle, which I think the versatility is important for someone who they would sign at this point. He had 2 starts for the Chiefs last year in 2020. I think he played in 4 games. He really didn't play a lot last year, but he was pretty much a starter from 2015 through 2020 on a whole bunch of different teams. The Panthers at right tackle and then left tackle, the Vikings, Giants, and Chiefs. Later on with the Vikings, Giants, and Chiefs, pretty much exclusively on the right side, but steady guy, veteran. Again, most of these guys are, all 3 of these guys actually are older players. They're over 30 years old. They're veterans. And, again, you kind of just, they come in if need be in an absolute pinch, and you go from there. And I don't think any of these guys, especially at this point, would be extremely costly. So if they wanted to spend that money, those are the 3 guys at offensive tackle that I would look at. And then at safety, there's 2 names that I chose that stuck out. The first one's a name that's been brought up a ton, in Jaquiski Tartt. He started 14 games for the 49ers last year, and he's pretty much stayed with the 49ers his entire career up until, right now. He ended up getting released by the Philadelphia Eagles, but he's extremely familiar with Robert Saleh, obviously. He's very solid in coverage, which obviously is something that you like, because the Jets, at times have had safeties that don't really tend to do all that great in coverage. And supposedly Whitehead isn't as strong in coverage as he is as a run stopper and someone who can come up and make plays towards the line of scrimmage. I think Whitehead's fine in coverage, but Tartt, due to his familiarity with Robert Saleh and just the system in general, I would like him for depth. I don't know if he's someone who's going to be necessarily starting over LaMarcus Joyner, but outside of Joyner, who I also think is a major question mark, he really hasn't played a lot in recent years. They need more depth there, and I think Tartt would be the one that makes the most sense. And this last guy is someone who's interesting and probably not as good of a fit as someone as Tartt, but it's a name that it's hard not to mention at the position in Landon Collins as a hybrid player. Does a little bit at safety, linebacker in the slot, moving around the field. He's not the guy that he was with the Giants. He's just not. He was an all-pro, 3-time Pro Bowler, I believe, with the Giants, but 3 sacks, 81 tackles last year. Missed tackles at times could be a issue for him. Again, I probably don't put that very, very high on the priority list and would rather Tartt than Landon Collins at this point in his career. But if the Jets were to take a flyer, a cheap 1-year deal on Collins at this point, and probably not even start him, but just have him as a versatile chess piece, kind of like Quan Alexander is kind of a versatile chess piece also, I think that would just add an extra element to this defense, which still needs work. I know that a lot of fans are very high on this Jets defense because they added Sauce Gardner early in the draft, and they added DJ Reed and Jermaine Johnson and Carl Lawson coming back, and Quinnen Williams should be, unleashed. And I agree to an extent that I think the Jets defense is going to be better, but I still think there's some work that could be done. And having a versatile player like a Landon Collins could add an extra element to this defense that they really just don't have right now. So those are my 5 guys for if the New York Jets wanted to spend a little bit right now before the season, or they could also hold out and see if there's an injury or someone else who becomes available later on that they could potentially sign. But let me know in the comments below if any of these guys stick out. Did I miss anyone? Let me know. Sound off. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new. Even if you're not new and aren't subscribed, what the hell are you doing? Make sure to subscribe. I'm Matt O'Leary, and I'll catch you next time.